Hannah Arendt was born in 1906 in Hanover, Germany, into a secular Jewish family. At university, she studied under Martin Heidegger and Karl Jaspers, who were both huge names in philosophy. But then the Nazis rose to power. In 1933, Arendt fled Nazi Germany and went to Paris. But then in 1941, she was forced to leave France and went on to New York. It was in New York that she started moving in literary circles and published her own books on politics, totalitarianism, and Jewish identity.
She's super smart.
All of which was drawing from her lived experiences. These works solidified her position as one of the seminal thinkers of the 20th century. So let's dive into her major ideas and see what she wrote. The publication of her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism in 1951, is what established Arendt as a political thinker. She argued that totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia were a new and distinct form of government, and they were very different from traditional tyranny or dictatorship. The difference, she pointed out, is that while these other systems aim to control politics, totalitarianism aims to dominate every person and every aspect of human life. Totalitarian regimes use methods like terror, propaganda, or mass surveillance to erase all personal freedom, creating an eventual dependency on the regime, which is undoubtedly horrible. So what inspired the rise of totalitarianism? Why are humans susceptible to such regimes? Well, Arendt traced the roots of totalitarianism to anti-Semitism, imperialism, and the breakdown of the nation-state system in Europe, arguing that these changes, ideologies, and the unstable political landscape caused mass loneliness and social atomization, which in turn made people more vulnerable to totalitarian methods and movements.
Lonely, I imagine.
People began to crave control and order, which makes sense, and the feel of a community banding together behind a common cause.
All remaining systems will bow to the First Order!
The big takeaway here is that totalitarianism thrives when people feel isolated and powerless, and a totalitarian regime manipulates those emotions to feed its own power and strengthen its clutch, which is unlike any other political system. The Human Condition, published in 1958, is not about totalitarianism, but it's about how to live a meaningful political life. Basically, what do we need as humans to be happy and civically engaged? Arendt distinguishes between three fundamental human activities. First, there's labor, which are the tasks necessary for survival, like eating and reproducing. Then there's work, which is the creation of lasting objects and institutions, like art pieces, buildings, tools. And then there's action, which is the unique and spontaneous interactions among people in public spaces. And this is where freedom is felt and politics happens, as opposed to, say, the society in The Handmaid's Tale.
Blessed be the fruit.
For Arendt, action, not labor or work, is the highest expression of human life. She actually believed that the ancient Greece polis, which is the city-state, embodied this ideal. As in the polis, people could act, speak, and engage with one another politically and freely. Whereas, Arendt argued, modern society tends to emphasize labor and work over action.
Back to work.
Which leads to a decline in a meaningful political life and political participation. So in many ways, the human condition acts as a warning. If politics is reduced to administration and survival management, efficient, effective, but a bit cold, we risk losing the sometimes messy but important spaces where public debate and real political action can happen. This is probably what Arendt is most famous for, or at least the Banality of Evil is how I came to know her. Arendt covered the trial of Adolf Eichmann, a high-ranking Nazi bureaucrat for The New Yorker, which she later published as this book. She was perhaps expecting to see a monster on the trial. I mean, imagine going to see someone who was a key figure among those who uprooted your entire life. But instead, she found an ordinary man who was insisting that he did what he did because he was following orders.
Trusted the Empire, followed its orders blindly. and it was a nightmare.
Here, she coined the term the banality of evil. This is the idea that great atrocities can be committed by ordinary people like me or you. And this occurs when people are placed in situations where they abandon critical thinking and follow rules without questioning them. Arendt argued that Eichmann wasn't a fanatical anti-Semite or sadist, but just someone who never reflected on his action and seemed to have a genuine inability to think from the standpoint of someone else. The banality of evil sparked massive controversies, especially amongst the Jewish community. World War II was still extremely fresh and people were actively hurting. Some thought that Arendt was minimizing Eichmann's guilt, but Arendt insisted that his ordinariness and his thoughtfulness made his crimes even more frightening, showing how much systems can successfully enable evil behavior when people stopped thinking critically.
Anakin has turned to the dark side.
Regardless of how the banality of evil was initially met, this finding was huge, as she highlighted that acts of evil might not always come from malintent, but from the mere absence of thought and judgment. Perhaps we are all, in such conditions, capable of committing these evils. The last work we'll cover is Arendt's On Revolution, which was written in 1963. Here, Arendt examined the difference between successful and failed revolutions, specifically looking at the American and the French Revolution. She admired the American Revolution for creating durable institutions and a stable republic, but she was critical of the French Revolution, as she argued that it collapsed into violence because the people prioritized social demands and economic wants over securing political freedom. Her argument here was that revolutions are most successful when they aim to establish these political freedoms, and they do not merely aim at redistributing wealth or bringing down the current rulers. Again, Arendt emphasizes the importance of political freedom and cultivating spaces for citizens to be civically engaged, like in the polis. Freedom, to Arendt, is not just liberation from oppression, but also being able to take action and participate in politics. So next time you're thinking of plotting a revolution,
I'm gonna start a revolution from my bed.
make sure to establish constitutional frameworks. They're very important. Arendt's writing and experience has had a remarkable impact. Her analysis of totalitarianism became a key reference during the Cold War, successfully bringing attention to how isolation, propaganda, and terror can make powerful and political tools in totalitarian regimes. Her banality of evil shifted the way we think about evil and the people who are behind those acts. And her focus on political freedom and engagement influenced later democratic theorists on what creates and maintains a healthy democracy. Arendt's work has also resurged in popular media after 9/11 and the rise of global terrorism, and more recently in debates over populism, authoritarianism, and democratic backsliding. Her work is a reminder that democracy doesn't just dissolve in a day. It dies in a slow erosion of thought, action, and civic engagement. On that note, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week.